Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Snehal Desai. I'm the producing artistic director of East West Players, and we're so glad you could join us all for this One City, One Pride conversation sponsored by the City of West Hollywood. And I'm going to wish you all a happy Pride. We hope you are having a good month. For those of you who don't know us, East West Players is the longest running theater of color in the country and one of the largest producers of Asian American artistic works. We are located here in Los Angeles, in downtown in Little Tokyo, and we are celebrating our 56th anniversary. And we are honored to be a part of the City of West Hollywood's One City, One Pride celebration. Shout out to Michael Che specifically for connecting East West Players to all of the festivities and inviting us to be a part of Pride this year. We really do want to thank the City of West Hollywood for their support of East West Players over the years, and particularly queer theater makers. Today, we are here to talk with a group of inspiring queer artists and EWP's current show, Interstate, a new musical that is having its world premiere here in Los Angeles, or it's part of its rolling world premiere here in Los Angeles. You will hear about the show from its creators, and I'm very excited because my friend and the amazingly talented and funny Dilo will be hosting the conversation. Dilo really doesn't need an introduction, but just in case you don't know them from all of the apps, I'm here to tell you a little bit about them. Dilo is a queer, trans, Tamil, Sri Lankan American actor, writer, comic, and cultural worker whose work includes stand-up, solo theater, plays, films, short stories, and poetry. His solo shows have toured theaters and festivals internationally, and he's a regular speaker and performer on the college circuit. Dilo's acting credits include Looking, Transparent, Sense8, Mr. Robot, Connecting, just to name a few, and a grip of indie films like Death and Bowling. You also see him in the upcoming Billy Eichner movie, Bros. His latest show, To Tea or Not to Tea, will be running from June 25th to July 10th at the Kirk Douglas Theater. The show is a hilariously intimate reflection on taking tea or testosterone and transitioning. In it, Dilo invites you on his quest to embody a beautiful masculinity that upholds his queer and feminist politic. Tickets for tea can be found on the Center Theater Group website. I was very lucky to catch it a couple years ago when it had its initial run in LGBT theater, and I'm telling you, you don't want to miss it. It is both very, very funny and moving, and also just very touching and very poignant. So I want to welcome Dilo on.
Hey everybody, I'm so happy to be here. Snehal, thank you so much. I love East West Players with all my heart. I'm so happy to be in this conversation with two of my very favorite buddies, like in the art queer game from way back. Before we get into this conversation, I want to introduce a video preview of Interstate. It is about like a 5 or so minute clip that has rehearsal footage and an interview with Interstate's director, Jessica Prudencio.
Hi, I'm Jessica Prudencio, and I'm the director for Interstate, a new musical here at East West Players. We are currently in tech for Interstate, and it's so exciting because every day there's a new element and a new aspect of the show that's just making it feel fuller and more real. And we're just so excited to be sharing it with audiences, the final piece of the whole family. I've been working on Interstate for over 3 years, developing it with Kit Melissa, and we've done readings, meetings, Zoom meetings, concerts, and even a production that got cut short with COVID. And finally, we're here as different people, as different artists, sharing the show in a different time. And it just feels right. It feels like we need this, our audience needs this. And honestly, the theater community, the LA community, we all need Interstate right now. And there's something for everyone. Being here in the theater is so healing, because we're working on a project that means so much to all of us. It's talking about things, exploring things, feeling things that need to be shared, and to allow a space, to create a space where we can be us, unapologetically us, with all of our complexity and truth, is what I believe art needs to be now. And that's what Interstate is. That's the musical that Kid and Melissa have written. Every day in rehearsal and even in tech and going into previews and performance, we strive for truth. We strive for vulnerability and specificity, and we're all bringing our best self. Being in the room is so fun. There's so much joy. There's so much curiosity because we're changing things constantly and interrogating all of our choices and saying, what if, how about we try this, or let's try it this way. Let's go back and do it this way. And so it's every day is feeling very exciting, very, we're very much on our toes constantly because we're changing things. It's a new musical and that's super, super exciting. I'm so grateful to be working with Kid and Melissa in the room in human form. They're with me every day, with the actors every day. So they're watching, sharing their thoughts, and we're making changes on the fly, right in the moment. We'll throw new lines at them. We'll change chords. We'll change music right in the moment. And we've created a room where everyone's saying, yeah, bring it on. Let's try it. And that's really what's making this process really special. Everyone's ready, excited to try something new and take a risk. We invite you to come out to East West Players and watch Interstate, a new musical where you will find something for yourself, for each other, for community, and allow yourself to heal.
The night I was born, the wind was still. The earth was warm, and this world gave me a gender. The night I was born, the moon was bright, and my parents wrapped me in secondhand blankets. The scent of baby girls locked in the bright red ribbons. Then as the colors faded, red to pink, and the fibers wore down ragged, I felt my gender do the same. So I rewrapped my flesh and rewrote my name. The night my mother left my father's world, she asked to see me. Her baby girl, Ma said, be strong. Her final goodbye, my father cried, my heart broke open. Mama said to me, in this life, there's no time to waste. So chase your dreams, fly, fall, run. In this life, you will be my son. I've always known this truth inside you, so let the spirit free to guide you. With a tale that's got to be told. A tale that's got to be told.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's that I love seeing it. I saw the play, y'all, and it is so beautiful. I can't wait to get into this with Melissa and Kit. I'm going to introduce them. Kit Yan, who goes by they, she, or he, and Melissa Lee, she and her pronouns, are an award-winning queer Asian American musical theater writing team based in New York City. They are recipients of the Jonathan Larson Grant, 2021 and 2007, the 2021 Cleveland Prize, and the 2019 Vivace Award. And they are also 2019 Dramatists Guild Foundation Fellows, McDowell Fellows, Lincoln Center Writer in Residence, and 2019 to the 2020 Musical Theater Factory Makers. Their new musical, Interstate, that we've been talking about, previously had a truncated production at Mixed Blood Theater in 2020. It was due to COVID, it was truncated. And it was included in the 2019 National Alliance for Musical Theater Festival and had a sold out run in 2018 at the New York Musical Festival, where it won the award for Best Lyrics. Their second full-length musical, Misstep, has been commissioned by the Fifth Avenue Theater, received a Vivace Award from the Brett Adams and Paul Reich Foundation in 2019, and will have forthcoming workshops at Playwrights Horizon in New York City and Village Theater in Seattle. Please help me welcome, I know quietly on Zoom, Kit Gan and Melissa Lee of Interstate. There we go. Hi.
How are you?
For everybody out there, y'all have to know that Kit and Melissa are some of the biggest hearted artists that are out there making art and making the world a better place. So if you don't know them, you have to know them as individual artists, of course, but definitely you have to see this play. This play is so great, so wonderful. It is like energetic, and the music is so great. I was like bobbing my head to every single song. Of course, not the slow jams, but I loved it, and I was loving the lyrics, and I can see why this play has gotten so much shine. And your cast is phenomenal. Even the doubling up and how people were doing all their switches, and such great direction from Jessica. I just want to say congratulations already, because the play is phenomenal.
Thank you so much, D'Lo. It's a real honor to be here with you, and of course, because you are such an incredible performer as well, and writer of great life-changing works.
Thank you, Kit. I know, but this one is about y'all. So let's get into that. Let us talk about Interstate. I have so many questions, but I want to talk about the fact that, y'all got this up at EWP, East West Players, such a meaningful and important theater in the United States, and definitely for LA Asian American artists. This is the latest iteration, and I know that there's probably, or not the iteration, but the latest production, but you probably have more coming up on the horizon. But I'm also asking, how long have you been working on Interstate? If you don't mind talking to us about the process. I know we don't have that much time, we have to hit this before 7:00, but I wanted to hear all about what this has been like for you, the fact that it's here in LA, what the process has been about this production, maybe either changes or just things that you're excited about, and how long you've been at this.
Yeah, we've actually been working on Interstate for 10 years now. And it's so interesting because, it does sound like a really long time, but in I guess in the world of original musical theater, it's actually about the right amount of time, I think, or maybe even longer in many cases. And so, yeah, for us, we started, this was loosely based on our experiences on the road. We went on tour, and then a few years, all this stuff happens in the show. And a few years after, we started working on this musical in 2012. So it's been a 10-year journey. And when we started writing this, we really were just trying to process our time on the road as performers, as activists, as people that felt like we had to represent queer Asians on the road at that time. And so for us, when we started writing it, it was really about healing our friendship. And so we didn't set out to be like, yeah, we're gonna end up at East West Players someday and do this production. We're just writing for ourselves and wanting to tell this story. And I think year after year, just seeing it resonate with folks, we just kept doing it. Yeah, and Kit, I'm sure you can talk a little bit more about where it has gone in the last 10 years.
Wait, before we get to Kit talking about where it has gone, we also have to just root the fact that you were a part of a musical duo that toured the country called Good Asian Drivers, very, very much done in that rasquatchy punk rock hip hop aesthetic, where it was y'all just hit the road and y'all went. And this piece is based off of y'all's relationship as collaborators, as friends, as like each other's rocks during this very formative time in both of y'all's lives, you know? And so I just wanted to say that before we went on. But Kit, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Dilo, because that has everything to do with where we've been. We've been working on the musical. Let me go in chronological order. We hit the road in 2008. We went on tour until 2010. We hated each other from 2010 to 2012. And then in 2012, we decided to write this musical. And in that process, have healed our collaboration and friendship and began to tell the story of our lives. In 2008, when we hit the road, we went to LA and we met you. Like, you hosted one of the very first performances Good Asian Drivers ever did in LA. I very clearly remember that moment where there was like, somebody had a really nice house, there was a big swimming pool, and you were hosting that show with like a whole bunch of other queer and trans Asian American people of color. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is like what our lives could be like in terms of just like finding community and making friends and being among our folks and our audiences. And I think it's like a really beautiful moment to be here right now with you, to be in LA where our shows are running very close to side by side. And being in LA also, it really means a lot to us at East West Players, because over the last 10 years, we've developed this show in many fantastic places. But it really feels like it has made a difference to develop the show at East West, where we're sort of like in a space that gives us all this room to breathe, where there are lots of queer, trans, Asian American folks in the room and in the community, and sort of like supporting us to tell the exact story we want to tell. Like, this show is not written for while this show is written for us, it's written for our communities. It's really written to reflect our experiences, and it feels really great to have all the support to do that. I think oftentimes we work in musical theater, which is a form that oftentimes excludes some of the stories that we're trying to tell. And so it's a really beautiful full circle moment to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited because and I just got a note that we can actually go a little bit longer, so that's even better. But I'm listening to what you're talking about like, yes, our voices might not be, really elevated in musical theater, and yet queer people make musical theater. Like, that's the truth. But like, sometimes the stories of queerness aren't there. And then also in Asian American theater, we don't hear a lot from queer voices as well. And so I can only imagine like, like what it means for people in general right now to see this play going up at such an important theater like East West, other Asian American, like young folks, and like, oh, not even young, but like just queer in general, to know that this is like so exciting, that this is that right now in the world, with all the, I don't know if I can curse, but with all the bull stuff that's happening with these bills against trans folks and trans young people, and just kind of like this overall policing of young people, not just queer folks, but like of young people, that it is so important right now for this piece to go out, because we're really following, and excuse the helicopters out there, but we're really watching characters who are young also giving like empowering other young people, which is the truth of our queer communities, is that like oftentimes we don't have elders kind of ushering us through rites of passages or even like how to live our lives. And so we look to our peers, we look to our chosen family, our family, if you will, to get those lessons. Is there anything that you can share about that, what I've just mentioned, and how it was important for you to sort of clock that in the journey of the characters? And if I did not make sense, just take it and run with it.
Yeah, I guess I'll take it. I think I think like Kit said, when we set out all those years ago to write this show, we were looking for something personally. We were looking for community. We were looking to share our work with community, right? Um, and I think what's amazing about it is that through the years, we really were just writing about us and our journey. And then through the years, there started to appear this character of Henry, which is a young 16-year-old trans kid who's figuring out identity from a small town in Kentucky, where literally the only way to connect with other people like him is through the internet, which, as we all know, is a blessing and a curse in many ways, right? So he experiences both sides of that. I would say, in relation to your question, like for us, Henry is the embodiment of so many young people and ourselves as well, growing up, like of all these young people who are trying to figure themselves out and trying to find that community, and being the internet being a way for them to find each other. And so as that character started to be developed, as we started to think of all these people we met along the way that really that we were on the road doing this for, the play sort of took this meta shape as well. There were young people that came to see the show that had just heard about it online, who had like asked their parents to take them to the show and met each other and found each other through the show. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's such a magical part, at least for us, of creating Interstate, and why we want to bring it to audiences, because we feel like it can at least be a vehicle of connection and finding community.
Absolutely. I think that just in the same way, that that is the point of why we make the theater or why we make any art, right? Like so often, like queer, I don't know if it's like queer artists, we don't have the privilege to think of things other way, because everybody around us, we want people to live and thrive and be healthy. And so we're like, what can we do to make sure that that happens? Like what can my little like efforts, in the beginning they're little, but clearly this is a big effort. So I totally see it. Is there anything that you wanted to add about like because I know that I was talking about young people, but I really do feel like even as, I don't know if like Alice Hum calls us melders, like we're not the elders, but like we're also not the youngers. So we're like in the middle, we're meld. Always got to give props to Alice for that. But I'm just like, I feel like even in my age, I want always community. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I want to just be connected to people, because there is a way, like, as you were saying, the internet is a blessing and a curse. There's a way to feel connected through social media, but it's also like not that thing, that true deep storytelling does. And so I wanted to see if you had anything to say about all of that.
Yeah, Dilo, that's this is a great topic to talk about. And Kelly, I do see your comments around finding the show and finding community via the internet, which is really a beautiful thing that this show talks about. But what I also think is really beautiful about what we've seen happen in the theater so far. Melissa and I have gone to, let's see, one preview and 2 shows so far, so 3 shows. And in those 3 shows, we have seen folks from our 2008 to 2010 tour in the audience. I've got emails from community folks saying that they're gonna drive or fly down from different different parts of the country to come see the show, and it's sort of a beautiful thing to have both the proliferation of the internet and then also to have this live performance. Because for me, what's really important about making theater, particularly as a trans artist, is that when you're sitting in an interstate audience, you're seeing trans folks on stage telling trans stories, but you also are sitting in a theater with other trans people. And there is nothing more humanizing than being with humans. And what makes theater so special is that our humanity is undeniable because we're there and
Mhm.
the moment is live. And you are getting a drink at the bar among other people, and you're sitting next to folks and you're waiting in the lobby, and that's all a really important, beautiful part of this particular experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a very important part for non-trans people and non-queer people to also be amongst this kind of like our beauty and like to witness like so often like we oftentimes go to plays where like we might not know much about the play, but like because other people have a closer connection to the work, we can experience as an audience member what a maybe a little bit closer to the work because of how the audience is responding or what the energy is like in the room. And I think it's so like especially in the States, and yes, we live in a big city, you know, LA, New York, and I know Melissa, you're in Montreal, but I think that sometimes we forget that even here in these big cities, people can still think of trans people as being out there and not necessarily part of this thing. And so it's so beautiful. Like, again, I just want to say that it's so beautiful to note, like when I walked into that audience, I knew that not everybody there was queer. I knew that not everybody was trans. And yet I didn't feel like, oh, I'm the isolated one. Like I knew that there were queer and trans people there. Like there were so many, like, there was so much love in the room. And I also know that there were people who had never come and heard a trans story either. You know, they had heard the Asian American story, but they hadn't heard somebody from their own community talking about queerness. And I love that. I love that your shows, your work can bring so many different people together because it's a real ass story, and it's also you know, it's got all your identities mixed up into it. So that I am so grateful for. So I think, I don't know, I think we can go on for another 10 or possibly 15 minutes. But I was also thinking, like, let's throw a fun question out there. Why don't we find out how you two initially met?
That is a fun question. How did we meet, Kit? We met. Well, I'm originally from Boston, so I'm the singer-songwriter, and I was doing some theater there. And Kit went to school in Boston, so I think we just. I mean, it's queer Asians in Boston, so I feel like there's, and we're both performers, so there's like, we're always like performing at the same events. I think the first time we ever performed together was in a event called Asian Sisters in Action, back when you were an Asian sister in action.
As I am smiling.
But then eventually, you know, we crossed paths again, and we ended up performing at a queer Asian cabaret, like a monthly queer Asian cabaret, and we just saw each other every month and became friends that way.
Yeah, and then was it like is the collaborative process that y'all had when y'all were like, I mean, y'all still young, but like younger, is it the same kind of collaborative way that you all work together for when you write theater?
I feel like we had to grow that, right, Kit? Like,
Yeah.
it didn't come from the start. I think from the start we were two very individual artists that decided to go on the road together, and then, to be honest, kind of accidentally became a band. I think I don't always tell the story, but it's like it was meant to be a double bill, but then people just kept calling us Good Asian Drivers, and then so we were like, okay, I guess like we're a band now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No,
That's
it was like
great.
it was like the Good Asian Drivers tour. Then we became Good Asian Drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now what do you I heard that you said that you had to grow into that, and I know that there was like the hatred years, but like but, and so I'm sure that has some stuff to do with it, but like Kit, is there anything that you want to share about what you feel like your collaborative process might have picked up or might have let go of from back then, and where it's at now?
Let's see. Now we're highly collaborative, which is it's pretty different than when we first started. When we first started, we were just kind of like pushing our work together. And and then now, since we work in such long forms, we write plays, musicals, and movies, that everything has to be incredibly collaborative because it's not always just us. Our collaboration, the script and songs, yes, a lot of times it's us writing, but then we're also working with the director, the producers, the actors, everyone else on the team, even like in the crew and stage management. Like in our rooms, oftentimes everybody has a voice, and because oftentimes the identities of folks on the team are also reflected in the show. There are a lot of people adding their voice to the story. Um, Melissa and I tend to do story together these days. So we'll do all the foundational prep work together. We often do storyboards together, and then we might go off and assign parts. Maybe one of us does script, and then Melissa might go and do music, or it's very possible that we say, okay, Melissa does this part of the script, and then I'll come in and look at it afterwards, or I'll do another part. But it's highly collaborative nowadays.
I love that. I love that. I've been in a collaborative process with Adelina Anthony for 16 years now. And while we don't like necessarily write together, we're all up in each other's stuff. And there's, there's something gorgeous to that longevity. And I know that it's sacred too, because, like I think that us coming up, it like death, and maybe not even that deep, but like no, I'm going to put it out there. Death and depression were just like right there. You know what I'm saying? And so I see y'all's collaborative process as something very, very sacred. And I'm so glad that y'all have been continuing through the years. Last question before we get up out of here. Because like I said already, the cast is incredible. The music is incredible. It's so fun and so great and so chock full of stuff. Can you tell me about like just your cast and what people can look forward to, like about these incredible players that are like bringing life to your words?
Yeah, we're just so incredibly lucky to be working with this cast of folks. It's really a dream. It's to see these folks not only inhabit these characters, but also they're showing up as collaborators as well. They're showing up with their own experiences and their own ideas, and I also want to give props to our director Jessica Prudencio for really fostering a room that is open to that, right? That where everyone feels like they feel some ownership in the show themselves, because we can't do it on our own. Like Kit is saying, it's really about collaborate. It's highly collaborative art form, and so yeah. I mean, I just want to shout out to our three leads, and in particular Jupiter Lee, who is just such a wonderful performer, who we did a national search for a trans East Asian a person to play Dash, and he is from Boston as well, and just extreme talent. We were also able to find Jaya Joshi, who plays Henry. Again, just super talented. They had just done Banging It, which it was in San Diego. Is that correct, Kit? In San Diego recently. And they just brought such a new um, a new interpretation to Henry that we hadn't seen before. That was very exciting for us to explore as writers as well. Yeah, and Christian Espiritu, who had done a very early iteration of this show in 2013, who, full circle got to come back and reprise this role as Adrian, and we're just so grateful for these wonderful leads.
Yeah, they were really phenomenal. I mean, I was so happy and so blown away. And like I was like, oh yeah, like Melissa and Kit don't look like this, right? Okay. Like for me, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. It was just it's so amazing. They're so talented, so extremely talented. Okay, is there anything that you want to say?
That's absolutely right. Our three leads are incredible, and I wanted to shout out our ensemble too. Who there are five folks in the cast who, every time I watch the show, I'm like, that is a heavy lift. Each person plays so many characters, and they are really toggling back and forth. I find that the ensemble, they're really the shepherds of the show. They are moving us from the world of the internet to the personal space of the family to the world of the concert and the audience. And they're really oftentimes like Henry is part of that fan club and internet base too. And so um, they're really our eyes into the world. They're the folks that are reflecting what's happening on the stage back out to us in the audience. And I just find that it's been such an engaging process to watch them um, sort of help us grow that storyline. They're helping us grow the storyline of the internet and the fans and also the family that is in the show. And so it has really felt like that process has also brought us all really together. Our cast is a very strong, important family at this point, and has helped us every single day. We have been doing rewrites, and it's certainly because of the collaboration that's happening in the room.
I love that. I love that so hard. I mean, it's two things I will say is the first thing is that, theater doesn't have to be like a terrible process. You know what I'm saying? Like, so often you hear of these horror stories about people doing theater, and I'm like, no, like you can have like a really great process in the theater. And then like you have both explained. And then the other thing that I wanted to hit is because Albert put this in the chat, we must also recognize the lighting and production designers. Yes, absolutely. And you've been talking about all the people and how people have been collaborating and putting their input. And I always think that like, an engaging show, like sometimes like you just like enjoying it so much that you're not even paying attention to certain things because you're like, oh, but all of this just gels. It all comes together so awesomely. So, hat tip to the lighting and production designers. And if you wanted to talk about any of the designers at all, then please use this time to do that.
Yeah, they have one of the most important jobs to help us see and hear all the people on stage and to make a space for our cast to tell the story on the set. So absolutely. And that's like I mentioned a little bit earlier too. Oftentimes our entire team is somehow reflective of the story being told on stage, and that is incredibly important because it's important to have like a really honest conversation with say like the costume designer to say, okay, so let's talk about what was happening in our lives in the world in 2008, the year that the show is set in, and let's talk about how to tell that story through what we're seeing on stage. Same in terms of lighting, sound, and set. We're really building an entire world
Mm-hmm.
for this story to happen in. I don't know, Melissa, if you have anything else to add to that.
The whole time.
No, just a real quick shout out to the band and the music director who's been like
Oh, yes.
important in making the songs come to life. I just write the songs, but these folks really just make it happen. I've worked with incredible orchestrator Macy Schmidt, who came all the way from New York, and we worked closely together with the band and was able to make changes on the fly. And so all those lush, beautiful strings are sort of her creation. And so yeah, just really shout out to the music team also.
Yeah,
I love that. Oh, Kit, do you want to say something?
and then our choreographer Annie, who just brought all of the fantasies on stage to life. Really, a highly collaborative team and room.
Yes. I mean, it makes sense because what I was feeling in the room just felt like nothing but good, pure good energy. With that, y'all, I think we're at time. So I want to give us an outro. Everyone, Interstate runs at East West Players until June 26th. You can check it out at eastwestplayers.org for tickets. The session has been recorded and will be posted on the East West Players social media outlets. And this program is supported by a grant from the City of West Hollywood's Art Division as part of the city's WeHo Pride LGBTQ Arts Festival, which is May 22nd to June 30th. And more info at weho.org/pride or at WeHo Arts. I'm D'Lo. This is Kit Yan and Melissa Lee, and this show, please, everybody, just go check this out at East West Players. Y'all gonna have a good time, I promise. And I think that we're out. And thank you for everybody who, I don't know if yes, just continue to spread the word about Interstate. And yes, we can take a picture.